Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Robin. Good to
Yes.
see you.
Yes. Can you see me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Dr. Mark Gabriel, before we begin, I shall I shall first introduce you first, and then after that we will proceed with the questions based on your
Sure,
book and also based on what has happened today, uh, just over about a week ago in Boston, and
sure.
we would like to get some observations from you, because there has been a lot of conflicting observations, even by experts around the world, including Harvard University. They have just done
Yes.
that a few days ago. So that's where we're going to be. So, Dr. Mark Gable, thank you for your time, and I hope to invite you to speak at the National University of Singapore on the webcam. Is that possible?
Yeah, that will be my privilege. Yes.
Yes, because I've spoken to some of the professors there who are Muslims themselves, and they're quite open to this discussion.
Yes.
And I think what happened was I was quite surprised to see that the modern Muslims in Singapore are beginning to realize that there's something curious uh, about this man named Jesus Christ. You know,
Yes.
so I think
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
it's absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. So are you ready, Dr. Mark?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, just give me a moment and
Sure.
just to be sure. Okay, great.
Is this is live, Robin? Is this is live or
N-
this is a recorded interview?
These are pre-recorded.
Pre-recorded.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's right. So I can do a little bit of editing here and there,
Sure.
but I'm sure we were not going to make any mistakes. Oh, definitely.
Hopefully.
No, no. It will be based on your book and your experience. So once again, let's begin. Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News, and we have Dr. Mark Gabriel with us right now here on our online interview, and he has written a number of books that's including a culture clash and even books on the issue of Islam, and you can get that available on the Charisma Media website. Now, Dr. Mark Gabriel, you have written a lot of topics on Islam, and many ask, how does one define the religion of Islam today? And why that? Because there's so much emphasis on this religion that seems to be related to terrorism and, and the media.
Thank you, Robin, for giving me the opportunity to spend this time with you, and I hope I will be able to provide an accurate answers for your questions. I know many people around the globe today, including US, in US, asking and wondering what is really going on and about Islam and about Muslims in the light of what is going on, Middle East, and especially what happened in Boston. The issue here that very important, there is very important point I would like to clarify it. I would like to make it very clear that we have to distinguish between Islam as a religious philosophy uh, and Muslim themselves. Boston incident gave us a powerful example about this point, that we have to distinguish between Islam as a religion, Islam as a religious philosophy, and Muslim themselves. The problem, according to my view and my understanding, it's not really with the people. The people, you find good people there, bad people there, but the main challenge in our world today is with the religious philosophy of Islam. Muslim scholars, they have to work out this problem because no one will able to resolve this problem but themselves. They have to come up with new interpretation of these kind of text and passages and doctrine in Islamic faith and Islamic religion that is promoting violence. They have to come up with some kind of new interpretation to bring somehow a kind of reconciliation between Islam and other world religion.
Now, how do you explain the the loyalty that's been measured for Muslim? Because many have asked, especially in your book, that loyalty is being questioned. So how does that explained?
Loyalty can be used in a positive way and also can be used in a negative way. When you have, for example, a good philosophy, a good form of belief that can contribute to peace, to justice, to liberty, to freedom, to equality between people, it's not going to be a problem for you to be loyal to this kind of religious belief. But the problem when you have loyalty toward a religious belief or religious philosophy that is violating the principle of the universal laws of human rights, that's a problem. That's a problem. Loyalty by itself, it can be used in a positive way. It can be used in a negative way. So I don't have a problem with good people who have a good form of belief to be loyal to this belief. But I have a big problem with this kind of loyalty of people who believe in discrimination against others.
Hmm. Now, yes,
That's a problem.
and how different are from the different groups of Islamic faiths in the world of Islam? Because there are many different groups of Muslims around the world today.
Of course, you have the Muslim world. It's divided into two large groups: the Sunni group and the Shia group. And each group of these two also divided into many other groups. However, the better way to distinguish the good one and the bad one is which one believe in the peaceful form of Islam and which one believing in the radical form of Islam. Here is the main problem. There is many Muslims around the globe today who believe in that peaceful form of Islam. But that peaceful form of Islam, it's not really convincing these radical Muslims. Why? Because this peaceful Islam does not have sufficient evidence to support it against the radical form. The radical form has a lots of sufficient and powerful evidence that radical use to justify their belief and justify their behavior and justify their action. For example, if you meet with Ayman Zawahiri today and ask him about these two forms of Islam, peaceful form, radical form, he will point his finger toward these peaceful Muslims who believe in this peaceful form of Islam that are politically correct Muslims, are Muslims who failed to practice their religion fully and to answer the call of Allah. When Allah and His Messenger call them, they have to hear and obey. So here is the problem. It's this, it's lay between these two different, the radical form, the peaceful form. Therefore, my call for the Muslim scholars who believe that it should be kind of reconciliation between Islam and other religions. Islam has to modify, has to be reinterpreted, especially this form of teaching that is supporting this radical form. And so the issue, it's with the Muslim scholars. They have to do something to reduce this kind of violence that we are experiencing every day around the globe because of this teaching.
Now, speaking about the teachings, could you explain to us the nature of the Islamic culture and how is it different from the Middle East the West and Asia?
Of course, the radical form of Islam took place first in the Middle East, and from Middle East is spread into Asia. Now, what we see in Asia, the kind of violence, the kind of radicalism we can see in Asia, we can see it in South Philippines, we can see in South Thailand, we can see it in Afghanistan, we can see it in Pakistan. Uh, uh, um, this is a result of the radical form of Islam or the radical teaching of Islam that is grow and fostered in the Middle East. So I don't see there is any difference between the radical Islam of the Middle East from the radical Islam in Asia. So they all standing in the same ground. They all believing in the same sources, in the same foundation. Um, but the good news here that these Muslims who believe in this peaceful form of Islam, of course, they are accused by the radicals that they are not good Muslims. Um, these people, they need really to put somehow some kind of pressure over the Muslim scholars in the Middle East because they think the solution will comes out of the Middle East. Muslim scholars in Asia, they are not going to really contribute much in resolving this problem. It has to come from Muslim scholars who are in the Middle East, especially between Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Qatar. This is the main three bases that is fostering radical Islam in our world today. So there is something has to happen through these scholars in the Middle East to bring somehow some kind of new interpretation to help the Muslim majority to enforce their peaceful view over the radical.
Now, what is the developments in politics as well as Islam in the Middle East today? Because there's a lot of conflicts that's going on in Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Iran, Iraq, and Qatar, as you said, and Bahrain, and so forth. Do you think that these conflicts will still continue to develop and evolve a new Middle East? And if that is so, if there is a new Middle East, how would Israel react to it?
Here is the actually, by the way, thank you for this question. I released a new book a couple of weeks ago in Europe discussing the development of the what we called Arabic Springs or the situation in the Middle East. The main reason behind the conflict in the Middle East, it's the struggle between the radical philosophy of Islam with all against the secular, corrupt dictator regimes that been there in the Middle East for decades now. And we know what happened in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Yemen, and what is going on right now in Syria. I don't see really there is a good tomorrow in the Middle East. Either this new movement that is leading this struggle going to win the conflict as Muslim Brotherhood win the struggle in Egypt, and we know where is Muslim Brotherhood is going to take Egypt. Two, if the in Syria, the conflict in Syria win by the rebels against Assad regime, what is going to happen in Syria is going to be similar like Egypt, and even more. It will go beyond that. So even when you go to look at Iraq, the real struggle between Iraq today, yes, you can see it from one side is a struggle between Sunni and Shia, but in the same time also struggle between moderate Muslims and radical Muslims. Iraq will never be recovered from this conflict. It's going to continue. However, the influence of all these pictures, all what is going on in the Middle East on Israel, it's presenting a serious present and future challenge for the security, for the existence of the state of Israel. Therefore, the Jews, of course, they have to do whatever to secure their state, to secure themselves, because who knows, um, what is tomorrow going to bring, especially when you see the desire of the Iranian regime to gain nuclear capability. And I do not know when Iran is going to gain this power, where this is going to take the Middle East to.
And speaking about the future of the Middle East, do you think America uh, has the willpower that or the pardon me the has do you think America has the political power to defend and defeat terrorism?
I don't know how to answer this question, uh, because this is very, very difficult question, and it's very difficult to find an answer for this question. As radical Islam existed, as radical Muslims existed, terrorism, Islamic terrorism, is not going to be ended, and I don't see it how any power beside even America is going to eliminate this problem. Um, why? Because of the nature of these radical groups, the nature of their religious philosophy. Um, so, for me, I don't know how to answer this question. I don't know. America went to two major wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, trillions of dollars being spent, um, thousands of American precious soldiers lost their life, tens of thousands being injured, and we still going fighting, continue fighting this war.
Speaking about
It's very difficult.
speaking about the philosophy, could you explain to our viewers because they are very curious about the how Islam has become a, a religion that's been created and become a culture. Is it possible that culture and religion could merge?
Yes, this was easy for the founder of Islam to develop that idea. Um, for example, when you walk in the street in Egypt and you will see a sign, or maybe you hear it from people who are from Muslim Brotherhood or they are affiliated to Muslim Brotherhood, they saying Islam is the answer. Al-Islam huwa al-hal. Islam is the answer. The way that they see Islam is the answer for the 24 daily problems in people's life, they believe is Islam. Muhammad designed Islam not to be just a religious way that can help people to maintain the relationship between them and God and other people. No, Muhammad designed Islam to control the 24 hours of the Muslim's daily life. When Muslims wake up in the morning, he has to wake up and do certain prayer and then go and wash himself or herself and go for the first prayer. When Muslims leave the house, they have to say certain prayer. When they come back to the house, they have to say certain place. Even when Muslim go to toilet, there is a way that Muhammad, that Islam designed for them to go to toilet. Person has to enter the toilet with his left leg and say certain prayer. Sitting inside the toilet, they are not allowed to open their mouth. They are not allowed to take a religious Islamic book into the toilet. They just be silent because the teaching explained that toilet, it's a devil place. Devil usually like to sit and live in toilet. Therefore, you cannot take Quranic copy. You cannot recite Quran in the toilet. When the person finished, they have to leave the toilet with the right leg with a certain prayer. when Muslims meet with his wife for making love, he has to say certain prayer. When he finish, he has to certain prayer. When Muslims riding a donkey or a horse have to say certain prayer. When he come down, he has to say certain prayer. When Muslims meet non-Muslims in the street, Islam tells them how to greet them. Muhammad designed Islam to be a system to control the 24 hours of the Muslims individuals. That's why he was able to merge this religious idea with the daily life, with the way and the culture of the people that can control their daily life. This is why when I was a little boy, I grew up, I memorized the statement says, Dinak dinak lahmak udammak. Your religion is your flesh and your blood. These Muslims, they grow up, they cannot separate Islam from themselves. It's not just identity. It's not just an idea. They like it and they just like to follow it. No, it's something in their blood. It's inside them. Therefore, here is my point that I discussed it in the beginning, that it's okay to see someone living his 24 hours according to a specific religious philosophy. But that religious philosophy has to be in reconciliation with the rest of the world religion. That philosophy has to be a philosophy promote justice, love, accept others, not to retaliate against other. I am for that. I am for that. But to see this kind of ideology that promoting violence, bombing, killing innocent people, destroying buildings. Uh, this is what we have to stand up and we have to speak against, and we have to really cry before these Muslim scholars to come up with such a new interpretation. At least they can say, you know what? We do not need to use violence today. We, they call it jihad. We don't need to call jihad today. The Prophet used jihad during his time because he was in desperate need of establishing his community and defending his community. But now you are 1.3 billion people around the world. You have the wealth, you have the you have everything to survive. Nobody can attack you. No, you don't need to use jihad today. If these Muslim scholars come up with this kind of new interpretation and put an end into this jihad religious philosophy, I think, I think a kind of peace can be established in our world today. So it's up to these scholars.
One of my viewers would like to understand what is the foundation of Islam?
The foundation of Islam as a religion is Muhammad um, declared that he is the seal of the Prophet, that he is the last messenger of God. He did not even use the name of God that being used by other religions around him or by other groups, but he came up with his Arabic own name, Allah. Okay, that's fine. But he came with the foundation, religious foundation of his religious of his religion of Islam, that the Quran came to cancel all books behind, not to confirm, to cancel all the books that reveal behind. Muhammad came as the seal of the prophets. He came to cancel all the mission, all the prophets that came behind him. That foundation explaining that Islam came to present a kind of revolution against evil, political evil, religious evil, social evil, whatever idea or ideology can contribute or can create a kind of evil according to the Islamic perspective, Islam has to resist and Islam has to counter this idea. So here is the foundation that Muhammad established. That foundation maybe worked in Muhammad's time, but I don't think this foundation of this religion can work today. They have to come up with some kind of new interpretation to keep the good things and to eliminate the bad things that can hinder Muslims to get along with the rest of the world community. For example, jihad. For example, discrimination between women and men, discrimination between Muslims and non-Muslims, discrimination between elders and children. There is no religion in our world today promote violent against children, against kids. Muhammad command his followers to ask their children to, to pray when they are 6 or 7 years old, and they have to beat them up when they reach the age of 10 if they refuse to go to the mosque and pray. This is children abuse. This is violent against children promoted by, by this religious idea. In our time of 21st century, with these universal laws of human right, the world has to stand. The world has to defend this principle of human rights. So again, Muslim scholars, they have to do something. Things, if it's going to continue going on like this, we're not going to have a good tomorrow and good future in the light of this violent and these difficulties. Everybody is suffered. Everybody suffered because of this religious ideology. Muslim themselves suffered more than anyone else. So there is something has to happen.
You spoke about human rights, and I have a question that's been sent in from our readers, and it says that in terms of human rights, the Sharia law, especially on crime and justice, how is it observed, and the women, especially their role in Islam and the world, past, present, future, and moving forward, will there be a reform taking place? Is Sharia law going to undergo a great amount of reforms in the coming months or even year?
No, I don't think it's going to happen in the coming months or maybe a few years. Uh, why? Because we do not see really a kind of sincere Muslim scholars. Maybe there is very few, but and these very few, the Islamic world cannot hear their voices. Like a professor in America, his name Abdullah Nu'man, and Dr. TB also here in Europe, and there is other few. They are speaking for that, but we need more Muslim scholars. They can speak for this reform of Sharia law. So far, Sharia law and these scholars who are in position and these political leaders who are in position also, they don't have the sincere desire to bring a real reform into Islamic law. I give you an example about that. In 1992, the Muslim World League called for a conference in Egypt to discuss the challenge that Islam has in contrast to the universal human rights. So they came up, they want to bring reconciliation between Islamic law and the universal laws of human rights. Why? Because they've been criticized so much by the West and how Sharia law violating the principles of the universal human rights. So they came up and they sit and they did a conference. They call it Cairo. They came up with a Cairo Declaration of Islamic Human Rights, and they try to answer this critics, they try to resolve this challenge and the contradiction between Islamic law and universal laws, and they failed. They failed. Um, about 11 articles from Cairo Declaration was in agreement with the international laws. 11 articles. But in the other side, 14 articles of Cairo Declaration of Islamic Human Rights severely violated the international universal human rights. They use, the writers of this declaration, they use, Islam, for example, um, promote freedom and justice, or freedom of religion, except by the prescription of Islamic law. So, in other words, they try to say, yeah, you have the freedom of religion, but you are you are applied by Islamic law. If you are a Muslim and you're going to convert, you commit a crime called apostasy. Then you will be under the judgment of death. So, which liberty are you talking about it? Which human, which religious freedom are you talking about it? So, in other words, the attempt of reconciling Islamic law to the universal laws of human rights through Cairo Declaration failed and cannot take us to anywhere. Therefore, we need sincere Muslim scholars to come up and sit and look and see what can be done. They should come up with some kind of interpretation first to this element of Islamic law that violating the human right principles, and then they can come into a conclusion to lead us to an agreement between Islamic law and universal laws of human right. But if this is not going to happen, all this to, till this to happen, we're going to continue experiencing the serious abuse of human rights for Muslims and non-Muslims wherever they are.
So in other words, because I got another question, human trafficking, human torture, child abuse, and even abuse of women are still do coexist in the Middle East. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
And are they going to do anything about it?
It depends. It depends a sincere people with a sincere desire to fix this problem in the Middle East. Till we find these sincere people and Muslim religious and political leadership in the Middle East, I don't think, or I don't know how this can be resolved.
Now, another one, a question has been sent in. That is the origins of Quran and what is the truth about the experience in Mecca and Medina? Because the Quran itself, and this question has been sent in by a Muslim. He says that the Quran has two different versions about Mecca and Medina when Muhammad has was trying to explain in the scriptures. Is that true?
Um, this is true, yes. There is a two different version or parts of the Quran. The first part was written in Mecca, and Muhammad claimed that he received it in Mecca. And that part of the Quran actually very peaceful Quran, very peaceful one. But the second part, it was written in Medina. So as we know, Muhammad lived in Mecca 52 years. When he claimed that he became a prophet and he received his first revelation, he was 40. Then he stayed another 12 years preaching his new religion into the people of Mecca. All these Quranic verses that he claimed that he received in Mecca, it can contribute a kind of Islam that we are crying for today. Islam to be compatible to other religions and to the principles of human right of today. But the second part of Medina, is the part that is presenting these difficulties, is the part that created the radicalism of Islam. So, yes, this is two different parts of the Quran,
You know,
as you said.
but at the same time, another question was sent in by a Muslim, and he says that since you said that the that Muhammad wrote two versions of the Quran based on his experience in Mecca and Medina, was it written in a way because he wanted to gain his own agenda? Was it all about his own personal agenda, or was it really truly for the scriptures?
There is reasons behind the characteristics of the Quranic of Mecca. That reason that shaped the characteristics of the Quranic of Mecca is Muhammad was by himself. Muhammad was just having few of his of followers, people who are believing in him. Muhammad wasn't have the necessary power to defend himself, and he lived these 12 years in Mecca under persecution from the idol people, all the idol worshippers of Mecca and surrounding Mecca. This is why he was teaching about patience, about forgiveness, about kindness, about try to get along with others around you. But as soon as he moved from Mecca to Medina, and he was able to be accepted by two big tribes in Medina, Arab tribes, one called Aus and one called Khazraj. And through these two tribes, he was able to establish his military. And then from there, he gained the necessary power to change the future of Medina and the future of Mecca, because later he came back to Mecca and conquered Mecca, and he surrendered the complete area of Arabian Peninsula, and even his military after his death went beyond that to Iraq, Persia, Iran, to Egypt, North Africa. So yes, there is a reason behind the nature of the characteristics of the Quran of Mecca in contrast to the one in Medina.
I have another question for another reader as well, and that is, what is your view about Islam attitudes towards democracy, and what is life before Islam in the Middle East? Why is it that Islam decided to embrace, and define and trying to define jihad? Is has that changed?
The concept, there is a big conflict between the concept of democracy according to the Western perspective and understanding, in contrast to the Muslim understanding of democracy. For example, if you go to Egypt today and you ask the Egyptian new president, Morsi, which he is Muslim Brotherhood figure, do you believe in democracy? He will say, yes, we believe in democracy. Yeah, we democracy is the best system to rule our people and to rule our country. And then if you try to ask him more question and try to figure the kind of democracy he believe, immediately you will discover that his concept of democracy, it's different than your concept as American or British or French. His concept of democracy, it's based on Islamic principle called shura. And shura principle, it's not the democracy that you know as a Western person. uh, shura is shura principle, it's controlled by the concept that God is the ultimate ruler. Allah is the one has the right to make laws. He's the author of laws. God, he is the one has the ultimate power over the state and over the nation. But the Western concept of democracy, it's the power, it's belong to the people who make laws, the people who shape the kind of government that they want to be governed with. This is totally, completely different than the Islamic concept of shura. So, but why these Muslim leaders, they are claiming that they are believing in democracy and they welcoming democracy and try to make the Western communities and the West happy? It's just, I call it, it's a they are practicing the concept of taqiyya. Taqiyya. You say something, but you believe difference.
Now,
And for a specific motivation to gain benefit or to avoid problem by using this principle.
so for a Muslim, in other words, they will even lie in order for them to protect their own interests. Is that correct?
Well, Islam allow Muslims to lie in four different stages, four different circumstances. So this is the kind of elements in Islamic teaching that it need to be reinterpreted or need to be really dealt with, because this kind of element, the element of lying, promoting lie, promoting deception, promoting violence, promoting injustice, promoting discriminations based on color, based on religion. All this is ungodly, inhuman, uncivilized principles. And this is why I'm saying again, Muslim scholars, sincere, good Muslim scholars, who want to get along with the rest of the world and help their community to get along with the rest of the world, they have to do something
Mm.
about that.
And but life before Islam in the Middle East, was it very different than what it is right today? Because I heard, because from what we understand, according to your writings and your research, is that it used to be a world where there's so much democracy that they drink and eat and marry.
Can you repeat the question again?
Life before Islam in the Middle East used to be a freer uh, society where people could drink
Yes,
and party all the time. Is that correct?
of course. When you compare that period of time in Arabia, we're talking about Arabia because when you talk about Islam and where is Islam came from, Islam it's established in Arabia. Islam came from Arabia. Um, Beside Arabia, the rest of the world was okay. They have their own civilization, like in Egypt, like in Iran, like in Europe. They have their own civilization. They have their own political system. They have their own way of life. But before Islam, the people who were living in the Arabian Peninsula, we call them the Arabs. These people, they do not, in that time, they do not practice these kind of evil elements that as I described in the Islamic law. Uh, it will be very hard to see Arabs discriminating against others because of religion. For example, when you look at the relationship between Arabs and the Jews before Islam, you will see Arabia, it was the harbor, it was the safe haven, the safe place for the Jewish people in the almost 1400 or 1500 years before the establishment of Islam. Every time when the Jews attacked by a foreign army, every time when Jerusalem being destroyed and the Jewish people ran away from their land, mostly you see Arabia was the safe haven for these people. This is why Medina, which was conquered by Muhammad and became the city of Muhammad, and he called it the city of light. Muhammad changed the name of that city after his arrival to Medina. That city, Medina, wasn't called Medina before Muhammad declared to be a prophet. It's called Yathrib. And that name Yathrib, it came from the founder of that city, a man, his name Yathriba. And that city was completely controlled and occupied. I don't know if I can use the word occupied, and populated by a Jewish community for more than 1,000 years before Muhammad arrived to Medina. He came to Medina. It took him about just 6 years later. The entire Jewish community in Medina was wiped out by Muhammad. No longer a single Jewish person can remain or live in Medina. So I gave you just an example how Arabs used um, to be before Islam, and how these very Arabs look at the Jewish people today after the establishment of Islam.
Now, I have another question from one of our readers as well. Is there such a thing as stereotypes, Muslims and non-Muslims? Eh, Is there
Can
a,
you
is there such a thing as stereotypes, Muslims and non-Muslims?
The stereotypes, it's created by Islamic law. It's not created by anyone else. Islamic law is the one established the definition of the differences between Muslim and non-Muslims. Muslims has every right according to Islamic law. Non-Muslims, they don't have the full rights that Muslims enjoyed. And that's again violation into the universal human right. So the stereotype between Muslim and non-Muslims is created by, it's a definition and principle established by Islamic law, not by other people.
And so why do another question that was sent in to me by a Muslim says, why do we Muslims define non-Muslims as enemies?
Because the Quran said so, because the Prophet Muhammad said so, because Allah in the Quran, as the Quran says, said so. ولن ترضى عنك اليهود ولا النصارى حتى تتبع ملتهم. Jews or Christians, they will never like you, they will never love you till you convert and you become a Jew or Christian like them. This is the kind of stereotype that Islamic law and the Quran established to destroy the relationship between Muslims and non-Muslims. Islam says in the deen, and the Quran says in the deen and Allah al-Islam, the only accepted religion by Allah is Islam. Other religions being cancelled by Islam. Islam, the Quran explain uh, that Jews and Muslims, especially the Jews, they are the most enemies of Muslims. The Quran says, قد بدت البغضاء من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا. The Quran says, the wickedness came out of their mouths because they speak lies, means the Jews and Christians. May you ask question, why? Why they speak lies? About what they speak lies? So the Quran will say, the Jews called Ezra to be the son of Allah, and the Christians called Jesus to be the son of Allah. قاتلهم الله أن يؤفكون. Allah will kill them for such a word of blasphemy comes out of their mouths. So Quran is, and Islam is the one who create this animosity between Muslims and non-Muslims, not the non-Muslims, not the Jews, not the Christians. The Christians, the Bible tell them um, that your Lord is the Prince of Peace.
Hmm. I have a,
Love your enemies.
oh, I have another question, and also it's coming from a Muslim female. She says that I hate wearing the tudong or the covering of my face and so forth. Could you tell me, Dr. Gabriel, where uh, does this originated, and how can I stop not wearing the covering?
The hijab, the
Yes,
covering, the hijab.
yes.
Yes. This Islamic ideology that is designed and created in the 7th century, I see it is just like a black box being created and all Muslims being put it in and provide no other access to see the world beyond this box. They are locked in that box. They see the world, they evaluate the world, they deal with the rest of the world according to the principles of that box. And in that same box, there is another little box. And that little box has the woman in it. And that little box where is the woman locked in, locked by the cover, number one, she has to have the cover. She has to cover herself. And also by the rules and the regulations that locked women in and discriminate against women. Therefore, today, when we are speaking about women's equal to man, this principle by itself violating the Islamic law. Islamic law says no, one man equal to two women. Okay, there is problem here. Therefore, the people who speak out for the liberty and the human right and the freedom for women, they have to put this in consideration, that woman has the absolute right to decide for herself what she wear, if she want to wear cover or not, what she can ride, to ride a donkey or to drive a car. Till today, in our 21st century, today, women in Saudi Arabia cannot allow to have a driving license, cannot drive a car. However, um, this is the kind of element and teaching in Islamic law and in Islamic philosophy need to be dealt with so that woman, Muslim woman, can be liberated, can be freed, can enjoy her dignity as a human being, and to have the right to decide for herself which kind of education she can receive, where to go, who to marry, to drive a car or not, just to have complete liberty over her own life, as the women in the West do enjoy it.
Dr. Gabriel, moving forward to the 21st century, do you have any last words in regards to what's happening today, and what advice would you give in the area of human rights?
My encouragement once again, um, to the non-Muslims in the West, in Asia, wherever in the world, please, when you look at this Islamic issue, you need to separate Islam as a religion from Muslims as a people. Muslims need your help. You need to speak for their liberty, for their freedoms. Muslims, man and woman, all, they are not enjoying their full liberty as anyone in China, in Japan, in America, in Philippines enjoying. Therefore, Muslims, they need the help of the rest of the world community so that they they can something happen to contribute to the restoration of their religious freedom, of their human right. We have to look at the people, Muslims. They are people, precious people, wonderful people. They created by same God who created us. They loved by the same God who loved us. He cared about them the way he cared about us. Therefore, there is no justification for a non-Muslims to point finger or to retaliate or to discriminate against Muslims. You know, when you look at Boston, what happened in Boston, you're going to see a powerful example. Two young Chechnyan men who commit this atrocity. But in the same time, why? Because they believed in this radical teaching. They believe in this kind of. But in the same time, the one who led the US police to arrest these to kill one of these two brothers and to arrest the other one is Egyptian young Muslim man working in a gas station in Boston. He's the one helped the American police and led, and told the American police and called the police and told them about these guys. So what we can see here, we see two Muslims because they believed in this kind of radical ideology, they commit this atrocity. A normal secular Muslim Egyptian who came to the state to work for himself, to work for his family, to have a better future, he act in a civilized world. Therefore, we have to see the difference. We have to support the good guys and we have to stand against the bad guys to hold them accountable whenever they break the law and bring harm to others.
I have just one last question from one of my readers, and that is from Charisma, actually, who publishes your books. And folks, please, if you like to order Dr. Mark Gabriel's books, please log on to Amazon and type Dr. Mark Gabriel, and you will find his books available. And this question that is regarding about your life, and that is, Dr. Mark Gabriel, you left, Islam, and, and it has actually cost your life. Why do you do so? And because you're getting you're having a great life being an imam actually in Egypt. And also, what's next for you? And of course, the next thing is your new book. So so could you give us your views?
The reason I left Islam because I faced all these obstacles in Islamic law and Islamic tradition that hinder me to get along with non-Muslims. This philosophy and this Islamic idea did not provide me a good answers for all my questions, especially about my eternity, where I'm going to spend eternity, what is going to happen to me in eternity. Um, I wasn't really able to get to understand who God is because according to Islam, He's too far from me. I can just do whatever from my side, and in the end, it's up to Him. He will accept it or He will reject it. So, because of this element of Islamic teaching that is um, make it very hard for me to function as a human being and to enjoy my full liberty and human right, to get along with others, to have a positive attitude toward others, to have even positive attitude for life, to have respect for life, not to die, not to be born just to die. There is many Muslims, especially this radical one. They just born to die. They born to die for the sake of Allah. No, that's not what God meant for us to be. To born just to for the sake to die. He create us to, just to live our life, to enjoy life in His way, to be such a blessing for this world and for everyone around us. So this is the one why I left Islam. Why I became Christian? Because Christ, He was the only one able to answer all these questions and to give me the things that my heart and my mind and my soul was longing for, especially the concept of my sin to be forgiven, to be redeemed, to be justified, to be cleansed, and His peace to fill my heart and fill all my life, and to create a totally new human being, a new person. When I look at my life since I met with Christ and I compare it with my life before, there is no comparison. There is no comparison at all.
So what's next? Are you writing a new book?
Yes, just I have, as I told you, I released a new book a couple of weeks ago. That book was released in Germany, and it's talking about the development of the Arabic Springs and the impact of the Arabic Springs over Israel in particular, and also democracy and the influence of this event also in human right. Is this is going to really restore the missing human rights in the Middle East and Muslim world, or is this going to take the Middle East and Muslim world into another deeper and dark hole? So this book, people they can learn from this book really uh, what might the future will bring to us according to the impact of the Arabic Springs. That book they can order it. Right now it's released in German. Hopefully soon will be released in English in United States. But people they can order this book from Amazon, um, Amazon in Germany.
Well, once again, Dr. Gabriel, thank you for joining us here at the National Critics' Choice and your insights on Islam and as well as the Boston bombings.
You're
Uh,
welcome, Robin, and I'm so grateful to have this time with you. And I'm looking forward to be in Singapore and to do something also in Singapore. There are wonderful people there. I received many emails from people in Singapore who read my books, and I'm so glad really to see the positive impact of my writings in Singapore.